Hey everybody, it's Carm here. I'm coming to you on a lovely spring afternoon. I'm going to come on and talk about a new album which I've been very excited about and been enjoying immensely, which I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do it a shred of justice here. But it's something I think at least some of you are aware of. Tangerine Dream. Raum, or Raum, which I believe translates to room or space. I'd seen Bill shown and talked about this from the Vinylverse, and inspired me to finally come forth with my own my copy and impressions and thoughts. But again, it's I've been listening to them now for going on 31 years, and I don't know if, as far as getting into them early on and hearing each album as they've come out since at some point in the 90s, later in the 90s, this is the one I think that has, I don't know, I'd say galvanized me the most, for lack of a better term. There you have, of course, for synth fans, just the mere sight of these are, excite one. And it's on orange vinyl. The inners are mostly blank, except for the vital statistics here. Now I also have the CD, which the song sequencing they're different from the CD and the LP, and I'll talk about the CD in particular since I've had more time with it, and I've heard the songs in that order, and it also has pictures that the LP doesn't have. But it consists of, well, you have Edgar Froese himself coming through from the other side, technologically as well as spiritually. They used his some of his files, that were on computer as well as tape, kind of using that as far as to blend with their own composition and improvisations, really blending seamlessly to the point where it's really hard to tell, his signature sound that he always had of his own synth playing. I find it hard to tell where his are at and where theirs are at, but it blends so seamlessly, is like you're not even really concerned with that, which I find with their music in general is something I'm always drawn to, just hearing the whole sound field at once, and really kind of a egoless, democratic approach that I feel like they always had, at least when they're really improvising together. Especially you have Torsten Quaishning, I believe the longest standing member of the group now. He joined them around 2005 on synthesizers, keyboards, and piano. Hoshiko Yamane, who I believe has been with them since about 2011 or so. Violin, viola, electric and acoustic, as well as electronics. And the newest member of the group, Paul Fricke, joined them I think around 2020, though he had played with them a little bit previously, guesting. And it was quite revelatory hearing how wonderfully he really blends in with the group for being with them for a short time. More pictures of the gear here, which again, for synth people is always exciting and enjoyable to see that. The songs and the lineup there. You get a special interjecting, and the gear here, the listing of the gear. Goes in alphabetical order, so it's probably a blending of what they're doing and what the sounds that Edgar was making. But yeah, for me, this album throughout it's nostalgic in a way, but not. They're very much drawing on their past, and Edgar plays on just the second piece, the sixth piece, and the seventh piece. But even on the other pieces, you can hear, kind of like the antecedents of what they have done since even before the time the current members were born, before I was born, before a lot of their fans were born. You can hear a lot of that coming through. But for me, the nostalgic it's like those moments if you're turning a corner somewhere, maybe you're passing a bakery, and you get a little whiff of an aroma, and something comes back to you from 35 or 40 years ago. Just it's as fleeting as can be. But throughout this album, there's tons of these moments at different points when there's a certain chord change or a certain texture comes in, crossing over with another harmony. It just happens from moment to moment, which I don't think I've ever experienced on any one given album from any particular group. Yeah, it's part of what makes this so special for me. Starting in, you have Continuum, which starts in kind of a slow, kind of a bright series of chords, which lead to a pretty upbeat rhythm, drum beat, which almost sounds like it's going to go into techno territory, but it kind of pulls back, kind of reverts back to something a little slower and more steady, taking its time to develop. But the rhythm, keeps kind of coming back without ever becoming entirely beholden to the dance floor, so to speak. Kind of staying, kind of coming to and fro, but never getting all too close. Staying kind of as ethereal as it is earthy. But a really nice opening, very upbeat, and you could hear a sense of hope and optimism. This was recorded during 2021, so you could say it's a pandemic era album when they weren't able to perform live at this point. But they really, you could hear that coming through right away. It's very, kind of an optimistic opening. The next up is Portico, which is kind of an abstract feel to it. And the textures on here are just amazing with what they're doing with the combination of synthesizers, both older and newer. These kind of, almost like these rubbery textures with metallic textures kind of rubbing against each other and almost sort of morphing back and forth, but eventually even the metallic tones eventually become a little softer and more, just a little more easy to digest, but still very, just as experimental as it is, listenable and not quite catchy, but just very pleasant to the ears, and I would even say the nerves. The whole album, even the more upbeat pieces and moments, have a real calm to them, and a feeling of centeredness and reassuring, kind of a reassuring quality to it. The third piece, which is really the centerpiece of the album, and my personal favorite piece, called In 256 Zeichen. The longest piece at around 19 minutes or so. Starts off as really kind of a slow ambient wash of shifting harmonies, almost kind of like a light flickering, but in extreme slow motion, just kind of pulsing and undulating, but very, very slowly. Almost sounds like it's going to be an ambient piece overall, although it feels more like a suite, going through a lot of different changes. There's kind of an underlying rhythm that comes in, sort of burbling, but a little hesitant to come in further. And then all of a sudden it sounds almost like an eruption, but again, very slowly and fleetingly. And then comes in what sounds like Hoshiko's violin, or maybe even viola, in kind of a repetitive style, almost kind of asserting its place, just kind of coming out of nowhere. And then comes in the rhythm fully sequencer based, in some ways taking you back 40 or 45 years, but still very much in the present. And then coming in, there's some further harmonies which are really quite inspiring. Just these kind of chords just kind of slowly, just kind of stabbing at you, but in a benevolent way. But still, the flow of the music is still very much intact, even with these moments where everything else is ceasing, but the chords are still coming through. just very dynamic with all the changes happening, but it's taking its time as it comes. It's not too fast to digest. It seems it seems just right. And then there's these kind of I don't know if you call them bass lines, but more like bass drops, where they just kind of come in at different points, and that adds kind of a certain depth to the music, while still the rhythmic continuity just carries over throughout. Just an incredible piece, and then it kind of ends the last couple minutes. Again, kind of a slow wash, just almost like washing up onto shore very slowly. The whole landscape of the album is really very surreal, which again kind of keeps in with really their tradition, and in a sense throughout to me their most experimental but also accessible moments, which was, I think, Edgar's original vision, going back to surrealism. It has that, but very much with their own feel and their own personal stamp on it. And next up you have Along the Canal, which is another incredible piece. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, number 4, it's You're Always on Time. That one has a real kind of sense of groove to it. Not necessarily beat-based, but just a really nice groove, almost kind of funky, but slowly and kind of stately as it comes in. And the melodies become more anthemic, more emotional, kind of hinting back to the opening of the album, where it's really a sense of hope and optimism coming in. And then as the piece goes, it gets a little more. There's some textures that almost sounds like you're looking at a clear picture of something, and it starts pixelating or kind of distorting, even kind of closing in on itself. But somehow it doesn't interrupt the flow of the music. It just sounds more like it's something that's the way they integrate these different these various almost contrasting textures are really remarkable. And again, something I hadn't heard from them much in quite a few years, and they just do it marvelously there. And the next piece, number 5, is Along the Canal, which it's very much like its title, where you feel like you're going maybe down a river or some kind of a tributary, but it's more like, for me, it's almost like they're ascending, like kind of a spiral ascending upwards, but starting off quite slowly. The textures are very kind of like milky bubbles. Kept coming to mind, and then as it goes, they gradually get more glassy and crystalline texture-wise, but still with a very consistent pacing as they go. And again, with the sequencer, just keeps carrying them throughout at various pacings, and there's kind of a lot of slowing down and speeding up, but just it's just something that's so surreal, but yet very inspiring, and that balance is in there throughout. And the 6th piece is What You Should Know About Endings, which is another piece with Edgar's contributions from the other side, again on there. And this is more a little bit like the second piece, a little more abstract, but a real kind of onrush of rhythm. It's kind of like they're back along the river, but it's going just cascading at a real frequent pace, and something again, it's just exhilarating, just the way the whole sense of pacing is really it's distinctive, the way they were approaching it here, and again kind of reaching across the years to their antecedents, both with Edgar and kind of on their own, but very inspiring. And the final piece, the title cut, Raum, or Room or Space, kind of starts in like Continuum, that kind of bright opening of chords, except without the rhythm, without the drum beat, not as much percussion in there. And this is more of kind of a back and forth, slowly building, then pulling back, and then building a little bit more. Very unfolding slowly, but the textures are increasing in density and even complexity to a certain degree, without sounding too harsh, but still maintaining that original feel. And then as it goes on, it has almost a kind of, towards the middle, almost a kind of stillness and a classical feel coming in with Hoshiko's violin, which adds some of that to it. I'd say throughout the album too, there's a little bit of a nod to Baroque to a certain degree. At least I hear it, just little hints here and there, which I'm sure is partly with Edgar's influence as well, as he was very classically influenced in his own playing. But overall, it's just I can't say enough about this album. I'm enjoying it so much, and I feel it's really it really does have that sense of that original exploratory quality that again represents them at their best. And I think these remaining the members that they're carrying the group on, and it's still it's the Tangerine Dream that I've always loved at their best when they're at their most exploratory. And to me, this will really stand the test of time. I feel it almost like it exists in a parallel universe. Really, it's now and it's from then, but it's still it's just truly timeless. And I couldn't recommend it enough. Whether you've been a fan for 30 or 40 years, myself, or just coming on to them, or just curious about electronic music in general, if you just were to listen to this at random, I believe whatever your persuasion in that area, I believe it could pull you in, and you could become a fan from there. So, yeah. Tangerine Dreams Raum, just released this year on K-Scope Records. So yeah, encourage you to give it a listen. Okay, well, just wanted to come on in and talk about this while I was been listening to it a lot the last couple days, and while it's still kind of fresh in mind. And just some of those deeply personal groups to me. And it's about, couldn't say much more right now. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoy if you listen to that. And well, till the next one. Peace, love, and joy.